Jake Tanner was mending fence when he saw her. Apache girl, maybe 16, thin as a lodgepole pine after a hard winter. She moved careful, the way hunted things do, toward his bay mare's rail. In her hand, a twist of dried meat. Last food she owned, by the look of her. She fed it to his horse, not to him, to the horse. Three riders crested the ridge, laughing like coyotes. "Look at that," the lead rider called. "Injun whores in love with Tanner's nag." The second one spurred close, snatched the meat from the mare's mouth, ground it into the snow mud with his boot heel. "Ought to put her down, same as a lame dog." The girl didn't flinch, just stood there, hands at her sides, empty hands, nothing left to give. Jake set down his hammer, walked slow across the 30 feet between them. Didn't run. Running showed fear. Didn't reach for his rifle. That showed intent. Just walked. "That'll be enough of that," he said. Lead Rider grinned. "This your squaw, Tanner?" "She's a person doing a kindness. More than I can say for present company." The grin faded. "She's claimed property. Captain Riker's got papers." "Then Captain Riker can show me those papers in daylight, with witnesses. Till then, get off my land." 3 guns. One of him. The math was simple. But Jake had learned in the war. Most men won't shoot if you don't blink first. He didn't blink. The riders wheeled and left, trailing threats like smoke. The girl watched them go, then turned to Jake. Her eyes were dark, unreadable. Old eyes in a young face. Eyes that had quit expecting mercy. "You hungry?" he asked. She didn't answer. Probably didn't speak English, or didn't trust it. He gestured toward the cabin. "Coffee's on. You can warm up." She looked at the door, then at him, weighing odds. He walked to the porch, poured 2 cups from the pot he kept simmering, brought one back out, set it on the rail between them. "I'll be inside," he said. "Door's open. Your call." He went in, sat by the window where he could see but wouldn't spook her, drank his coffee slow. 5 minutes passed. Then she crossed the threshold, stayed near the door, took the cup. Her fingers were frostbit, white at the tips. Another few nights outside and she'd lose them. "You got somewhere to go?" he asked. She shook her head once. "No. Fire's warm. Stew's in the pot. Help yourself." She didn't move toward the food. Instead, she pulled something from inside her coat, another small twist of dried meat, set it on the table. For his horse. Payment. Jake felt something crack in his chest. Not break, just crack. The way ice does when spring's coming. "You fed my horse before yourself," he said quietly. "That counts for something." She ate standing. 3 bites of stew, then stopped, rationing herself even with plenty in front of her. Jake didn't push. Some hungers you can't fix with one meal. "You can sleep by the fire tonight," he offered. "I'll bunk in the loft. No trouble from me." She studied him, deciding if he was a liar. "Suit yourself," he said when she didn't answer. "Offer stands." He climbed to the loft, left the door unbarred, lay down with his rifle across his knees. The only sound was the fire crackling, and her soft breathing below. He didn't sleep. Kept thinking about those 3 riders, about Captain Riker, about papers that could turn a person into property, and about his daughter, Emma. 4 years old when fever took her. How the town had watched her die, and no one brought medicine because they were too far out. Convenient excuses, same kind men made when they didn't want to help. Dawn came gray. The girl was already awake, stove restoked, his coffee poured. She worked quiet, efficient. Jake sipped the coffee. "Thank you." She nodded, started for the door. "You don't have to go," he said. She pointed at the ridge, at the shadow moving there. "Watching." "Yeah," Jake said. "They'll be back." She looked at him, a question in her eyes. "Why help me?" He didn't have a good answer, just the truth. "Because you fed my horse, and because nobody else will." She held his gaze for 3 long seconds, then walked out into the cold. Jake stood in the doorway, watching her go, knowing he should let her, knowing trouble followed her like wolves follow blood. But some things a man couldn't unsee. He'd feed her again tomorrow, if she came back. And if those riders came back too, he'd deal with that when the time came. A man could only do what was in front of him. Everything else was just weather. She didn't come back the next day. Jake told himself that was fine. Better, even. Girl like that would find her own way. Didn't matter that she'd left his harness strap mended. Didn't matter that the stove was still warm when he woke. He mucked the stalls, checked fences, did the work that needed doing, but his eyes kept drifting to the ridge. When Deputy Morgan rode up at noon, Jake already knew what he'd come to say. Tanner. Morgan tipped his hat. Professional, which meant bad news. Deputy. Heard you had a visitor yesterday. Apache girl. Shared coffee. That a crime now? Morgan shifted in his saddle. Captain Riker says she's his. Got army papers. Transfer of custody after a raid up north. Custody. Jake let the word sit. That's a pretty name for slavery. That's a pretty word for trouble, Morgan shot back. Riker's connected. Fort Carson, federal contracts. He says jump. The territorial judge asks how high. And what do you say? Morgan looked away. I say don't make this your problem. Already is. Jake? She fed my horse. I fed her. That's the whole story. Won't be come morning. Morgan's voice dropped. Riker's sending men. Not to ask. To take. You stand in the way, they'll go through you. Then they'll go through me. Morgan shook his head. You're a stubborn man, Jake Tanner. I'm a man who can still look himself in a mirror. That's more than some. The deputy flinched, but he didn't argue, just rode off, shoulders tight. Jake checked his rifle, counted shells. 23 rounds. Probably wouldn't be enough. Might not matter. Sunset came cold. Jake was splitting wood when he heard it. Coyote song up canyon, except coyotes didn't usually sing at dusk. He grabbed his rifle, followed the sound. Half a mile up, in a crack of red rock, he found her. No fire, no blanket, just her and a shelter made of branches barely thick enough to break the wind. She was shivering so hard her teeth clacked. Christ, he said, then caught himself. She saw him, tried to stand, fell. He knelt beside her. How long you been out here? She held up fingers. 3 nights. Before she came to his fence. Before she gave away her last food. You're coming with me, he said. She shook her head, signed something, Apache words he didn't know. But the meaning was clear. I bring trouble. I've had trouble before, he said. Least this kind has a face. He pulled off his coat, wrapped it around her. She was light as kindling when he lifted her. Got a name? He asked as he carried her down slope. She didn't answer. Maybe didn't have a name white folks could pronounce. Or maybe names were dangerous things to give. All right then, he said. We'll figure it out. He rode back into town with her sitting in front of him. Had to. She couldn't sit a horse alone, weak as she was. Main Street was busy. Saturday afternoon. Market closing. Every eye turned. Jake kept his gaze forward. Walked his bay slow, like he had every right. Because he did. Samuel, the shopkeeper, stepped onto his porch. Stared. Didn't speak. Mrs. Everett clutched her daughter close. Like Apache was catching. But old Ben Cartwright, the blacksmith, just nodded once. Approval. That was one. Jake needed more. But one was a start. Back at the cabin, he settled her by the fire. Wrapped her in the old quilt from his bed. Made broth from salt pork and potatoes. She drank it slow, watching him. Tomorrow, he said. I'm riding to see Preacher Daniels. And Samuel. Need witnesses. Need this done legal, or Riker'll just take you in the dark. She tilted her head. Question. Means you're staying, Jake explained. Means I'm saying so in front of the whole town. Means they'll have to go through me and the law both. She set down the cup, pulled something from her coat, yet another twist of dried meat. Her emergency stash. The thing you never share unless you're family. She pushed it across the table, toward him. Her choice made. Jake swallowed hard, picked up the meat, broke it in half, gave one piece back. Then we stand, he said. Outside, the wind picked up. Somewhere on the ridge, Men were watching. Let them watch. Jake Tanner had drawn his line. Now he'd see who'd cross it. 2 days passed quiet. The girl didn't talk, but she worked, mended his spare shirt, scraped hides he'd been meaning to cure, kept the fire at just the right heat. And every meal she waited. Wouldn't touch food till he'd taken his share. Old survival habit. Eat last, eat least. That's how you stayed alive when food was scarce and stronger people took first. It bothered Jake, not the habit. He understood it, but what it said about the life she'd lived. You eat first today, he told her at breakfast. She shook her head. Wasn't a question, he said gently. Served her plate. Set it down. She stared at it, then at him, like he'd performed a miracle. Maybe he had. That afternoon, she found the trunk. Jake was outside checking traps when he came back in and saw her holding it. Small thing. Wool. Yellow flowers embroidered on the corner. His daughter's blanket. For a second, he couldn't breathe. The girl looked up, saw his face. Carefully, so carefully, folded the blanket and set it back in the trunk. Then did something he didn't expect. She took his hand, placed it over his heart. Apache blessing, or maybe just human kindness. The grief was suddenly right there, fresh as the day he'd buried Emma. And then Sarah, 6 months later, his wife who couldn't live in a world without their girl. Had a daughter, he heard himself say. Fever took her. My wife couldn't bear it. Followed her 6 months on. The girl kept her hand over his heart. Steady, grounding. Couldn't save either one, Jake said. Voice rough. He stopped, cleared his throat, stepped back. Sorry, that ain't your burden. But she shook her head, pointed to herself, then to him. Yes, it is. We carry it together now. He damn near broke. They came at dusk. 6 riders. Captain Riker in front, tall man, gray beard, federal coat. Behind him, hired muscle and one thin man in spectacles carrying a leather satchel. Jake stepped onto the porch, didn't bring the rifle, not yet. Tanner. Riker didn't dismount. Power play. Captain. I'll make this simple. The girl's mine. Army transfer. All legal. He gestured to spectacles. Mr. Petty here has the documents. Petty pulled out a paper, unfolded it, read in a clerk's voice. Transfer of Apache female approximately 16 years from Fort Bowie to Captain Silas Riker in compensation for services rendered. Let me see it, Jake interrupted. You can't read, Riker said. Dismissive. I can read fine. Let me see it. Reluctantly, Petty handed it down. Jake scanned it. Date looked wrong. Signature looked copied. But he wasn't a lawyer. This says Fort Bowie, April 81, Jake said. That's 2 years back. Girl's been here 3 nights. Where's she been between? That's not your concern. It is if you're claiming ownership. Where's the chain of custody? Who transferred her from the fort? Who brought her here? Riker's jaw tightened. You calling me a liar? I'm asking questions. Lawyers like questions. Judges too. One of the bruisers spat. Talk fancy all you want, Tanner. We're taking her. Not without witnesses, Jake said. And not without proof. Real proof. Bring a judge. Bring a marshal. I'll listen. But I won't hand a person over to 6 armed men in the dark. Riker leaned forward in his saddle. You got 48 hours. After that, I'm coming back with federal authority, and you'll hang for obstruction. Then I'll hang legal, Jake said. Better than living dirty. After they rode off, Jake saddled up. Stay inside, he told the girl. Bar the door. Don't open it for anyone but me. She nodded, handed him the dried meat, his share from earlier. Trail food. He took it. I'll be back before midnight. First stop, Preacher Daniels. The preacher listened, rubbed his chin. Finally, I'll witness. But Jake, you're asking folks to stand against the army. I'm asking folks to stand for the truth. Truth don't always win. Then at least we'll know what we're made of. Daniel sighed. All right, I'll stand. 1. Next, Samuel's store. Closed, but light in the back. Jake knocked. Samuel cracked the door. It's late, Jake. Need a favor. Need you to witness a hearing. Day after tomorrow. Town Square. Heard Rikers claiming that girl. He is, and I'm contesting it. Samuel glanced over his shoulder. His wife in the doorway, arms crossed. We got customers who won't like that. Then they can shop elsewhere. Long pause. Then Samuel nodded. I'll be there. 2. Jake rode back through sleet. The cabin light was still burning. She'd kept the fire for him. He came inside, dripping. She handed him coffee without a word. Got 2 witnesses, he said. Need more, but it's a start. She didn't understand all the words, but she understood enough. She pulled a small pouch from her coat. Inside, 6 silver beads. Apache wealth. She pushed them toward him. Payment for a lawyer. Jake pushed them back. No, this isn't about money. It's about what's right. She looked at him for a long time, then took his hand, placed it over her heart this time. You are good man. He swallowed. Trying to be. That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He lay in the loft, listening to her breathe by the fire below, listening to the wind test the walls, listening to his own doubts. But then he remembered the way she'd fed his horse before herself, the way she'd blessed his grief, the way she'd offered her last wealth to pay for her own freedom. Some people you helped because it was convenient. Some you helped because if you didn't, you weren't a man anymore. He'd already lost a daughter, lost a wife, lost his faith in mercy, but he hadn't lost his ability to choose, and he chose this. Morning came gray. Jake dressed, loaded his rifle, checked his coat. The girl watched him from the fire. I'm riding to the county seat, he told her. Filing papers, making this official. When I get back, we'll face whatever comes. She stood, walked to him, put her hand over his heart one more time. Then she spoke, first English words he'd heard from her. We stand. His words, from 2 nights ago. She'd remembered. Jake nodded. We stand. He walked out into the sleet. Behind him, the door stayed open just a crack. Her watching until he crested the ridge. Ahead, county seat, lawyers, papers, truth. Behind, a girl who'd trusted him with the only thing she had left, her life. He'd be damned if he wasted it. Jake got back from the county seat 3 days later. Papers filed, guardianship claim registered. Cost him his last $20 and a day's hard riding through mud that wanted to suck the shoes off his horse. The cabin looked the same from outside, but when he walked in, he knew something had changed. The girl had rearranged. Firewood stacked efficient, tools hung where they belonged, and on the table, 4 skinned rabbits, a pot of bitter greens, and bread made from cattail root. Where'd you learn that? He asked, pointing at the bread. She signed, or starve. He nodded. Fair enough. They ate together. First real meal in days. The bread tasted like mud and determination. Best thing he'd had in months. Outside, fresh tracks circled the cabin. Boot prints, horse prints. Someone had been watching while he was gone. The girl had seen them too. She'd barred the door every night. Smart. 2 nights later they came. Jake was banking the fire when he heard horses. Close, too close. He grabbed his rifle. Get to the loft. Stay low. She moved without question. Good instincts. He cracked the door, counted 6 shapes in the darkness. Couldn't see faces, but he knew the type. A shot cracked. High. Took out the cabin's only window. Warning shot. Jake didn't return fire. That's what they wanted. An excuse to say he'd fired first. Instead, he stepped onto the porch. Rifle held low but visible. Next man fires, I'm shooting back, he called, and I don't miss. Silence. Then hoofbeats retreating. They'd tested him. Found out he wouldn't spook easy, but they'd be back. Jake went inside. The girl climbed down from the loft. Her hands were steady, no tears, no panic. You've done this before, he said. Not a question. She nodded once. How many times? She held up both hands. Fingers spread. Then 3 more fingers. 13 times. 13 times she'd been hunted. Well, Jake said quietly, this is the last time. I promise you that. She looked at him like she wanted to believe him. He wanted to believe himself. He covered the broken window with oilcloth, moved his bedroll downstairs so he'd hear anyone approaching, slept with the rifle across his chest. The girl slept by the fire, but he noticed she kept her boots on, ready to run. He didn't blame her. Morning came cold and clear. Jake rode into town. First stop, Preacher Daniel's church. Nailed a notice to the door, old custom, but it still meant something. Notice of challenge. Any claim on the Apache woman sheltered by Jake Tanner must be proven with legal documents in daylight before witnesses. No claims will be honored in darkness or by force. Jake Tanner, witnessed by Rev. Nathaniel Daniels. Preacher came out, read it, nodded. That'll stir the pot. Good. Pot needs stirring. Next, Samuel's store. The shopkeeper was serving Mrs. Hendricks when Jake walked in. She took one look at him and left without buying. Samuel sighed. You're costing me business, Jake. Then charge me more for flour. Samuel almost smiled. Can't, you're already broke. He pulled out the ledger, extended a credit line. Pay when you can. I'll pay. Might take time, but I'll pay. I know you will. That's why I'm doing it. Two more customers walked past the store without coming in. Saw Jake through the window. Samuel watched them go. This is going to get worse before it gets better. I know. Still worth it? Jake thought of the girl, sleeping with her boots on, ready to run because 13 times before, no one had stood between her and the wolves. Yeah, he said. Still worth it. Samuel bagged flour, salt, coffee, slid it across the counter. Then I guess we're in this together. 3 allies, not many, but more than 0. Jake rode back with supplies and something else. Hope. Thin hope. Fragile as spring ice. But hope. Deputy Morgan showed up at dusk. Jake saw him coming. Didn't reach for his rifle. Morgan wasn't the shooting type. He was the look the other way type, which was worse, in some ways. Jake. Morgan dismounted. Looked tired. Deputy. Got word you filed papers at the county seat. Guardianship claim. That's right. Also heard you nailed a challenge to the church door, like Martin Luther. Jake shrugged. History repeats. Morgan took off his hat, turned it in his hands. Jake, Riker's connected. Federal contracts. Territorial governor. He says jump. The judge asks how high. You said that already. Because it's true. Don't make it right. Morgan looked at the cabin, at the thin smoke rising from the chimney. She in there? She is. What's her name? Jake paused. Don't know. She hasn't said. You're risking your life for someone whose name you don't know? Risked my life in the war for a country that don't remember me. At least this time, I know who I'm fighting for. That landed. Morgan flinched. Riker's paper is forged, Morgan said quietly. I know it is. Date's wrong. Signature don't match the commanding officer from Fort Bowie. I checked. Jake went very still. You checked? I checked. Morgan met his eyes. But if I say so officially, I lose my badge. Maybe my life. Riker's got friends who don't ask questions before they shoot. So you're telling me this why? Because when the time comes, when this goes to a hearing or a showdown or whatever it's going to be, I'll need to decide if I'm a lawman or a coward. You're not a coward, Morgan. Then what am I? A man trying to do right in a crooked system. I respect that. Morgan put his hat back on. I can't promise I'll stand with you. Didn't ask you to. But I can promise I won't stand against you. That's the best I got. Jake extended his hand. That's enough. They shook. Morgan rode off into the gathering dark. Inside, the girl had heard everything. She looked at Jake, question in her eyes. He's on our side, Jake said. Just doesn't know it yet. That night, they worked together. Jake taught her to load the rifle, showed her the sight picture, the trigger squeeze, the recoil pocket against her shoulder. She was a natural. Steady hands. Patient. You shoot before? He asked. She nodded. Signed. Father taught. Before soldiers came, he didn't ask what happened to her father. Didn't need to. Well, he said, if they come again, you fire through the window. I'll take the door. Crossfire makes them think twice. She looked at him, serious, then signed something he didn't understand. She repeated it slower, pointed to him, pointed to herself, drew a circle in the air. Together. Yeah, Jake said. Together. They practiced until the oil lamp ran low, then sat by the fire, sharing the last of the coffee. She pulled out a small leather pouch. Inside, 6 silver beads and something new, a carved wooden horse, no bigger than his thumb. She'd made it. From a scrap of firewood, crude but recognizable. She handed it to him. For me? He asked. She nodded. Why a horse? She pointed outside, to his bay mare, then to the memory. The first day, when she'd fed the horse her last food, that's when you decided I was worth saving. Jake's throat tightened. He closed his hand around the little horse. I'll keep it. Always. She smiled. Small, shy, but real. First real smile he'd seen from her. Worth more than any alliance. More than any paper filed at any county seat. That smile was the reason men fought wars, built homes, stood against the dark. He'd fight for it. And if he died for it, well, there were worse things to die for. Morning brought fresh tracks. Not around the cabin this time. Around the well. Someone had poisoned it. Dumped something in the water. Jake could smell it. Bitter. Chemical. Don't drink from the well, he told the girl. Showed her the slick sheen on the surface. Her face went hard. Angry. She'd seen this before too. They melted snow for water. Rationed what they had. It would last 3 days, maybe 4. On the 4th day, rain came. They set out every pot, pan, and bucket, collected 10 gallons, enough to survive. That night, Jake stood on the porch watching the horizon. Lightning flashed. Thunder rolled. Somewhere out there, Riker's men were waiting, watching, planning their next move. Let them plan. Jake Tanner had learned something in the war. The side that refused to quit usually won. Not because they were stronger, not because they were smarter, but because they were still standing when the other side gave up. He wouldn't give up. Not on her. Not on this. The girl came to the door, handed him coffee. Rainwater coffee, weak and strange tasting, but warm. They stood together in the doorway, watching the storm. No words needed, just presence, just standing. Saturday. Market day. Jake made a choice. They'd go to town, together. In daylight, hiding kept her safe from bullets, but it kept her from being human. And if she wasn't human in the eyes of the town, Riker's paper would win, because papers can say anything about property. Only witnesses could say something about a person. We're going to town, he told her. You'll stay close. I'll stay closer. She understood, started to refuse. Too dangerous. But he held up a hand. They need to see you. See that you're not some wild thing. You're a person. Quiet, hardworking, decent. More decent than most of them. She looked at him for a long moment, then nodded. She braided her hair, washed her face, wore the cleanest shirt she had, one of his, taken in at the shoulders. They rode double into town, slow and steady. Every eye turned. Jake didn't care. Let them look. First stop, Samuel's store. The place went quiet when they walked in. 5 customers, all staring. Samuel looked up from his ledger. Morning, Jake. Morning. The girl moved careful, didn't touch anything, didn't make herself big, just waited. She pulled out her pouch, the silver beads, set 3 on the counter. What's she want? Samuel asked. Salt, Jake said, and cornmeal if you got it. Samuel weighed the beads in his hand. This is too much. Then give her full measure. One of the customers, old Mrs. Patterson, stepped closer, looked at the girl, at the beads, at the careful way she stood. Apache work, Mrs. Patterson said. Not hostile, just observing. Good silver work. Where'd you learn? The girl didn't answer, didn't speak. Jake spoke for her. Her mother, probably, before she died. Mrs. Patterson's face softened. Just a fraction. My mother taught me tatting before she passed. Silence. Then Mrs. Patterson did something unexpected, pulled a coin from her purse. Set it beside the beads. For cornbread, if you know how to make it. The girl looked at Jake. He nodded. She took the coin, nodded to Mrs. Patterson. Samuel bagged salt and meal. No charge for the meal, beads cover it. 2 customers left, uncomfortable, but Mrs. Patterson stayed, and so did Ben Cartwright, the blacksmith, who'd been silent in the corner. She makes good beadwork, Ben said. I'll buy some, for my daughter. 3 customers, 2 allies, 1 sale, small victories. But they were victories. Outside, the girl stopped. A little boy, maybe 6, stood by the hitching post, staring at her. She knelt, slow, unthreatening, reached into her bag, pulled out a small piece of cornbread she'd saved from breakfast, offered it. The boy looked at his mother. The mother, one of the women who'd pulled her daughter away last week, hesitated, then nodded. The boy took the cornbread, whispered, "Thank you." The girl smiled, touched his hair gently, stood. The mother watched. Something shifted in her face. "I'm sorry," she said quietly. To Jake, to the girl. "I was scared." "We're all scared," Jake said. "Fear ain't the problem. What we do with it is." The woman nodded, took her son's hand, but before she left, she said to the girl, "You're welcome in my store, if you need cloth or thread." The girl didn't understand all the words, but she understood the tone, acceptance. She nodded back. 4 allies now. The town was shifting. Slowly, like a river changing course. You couldn't see it hour by hour, but over days the banks moved, and the river always won. Sunday, church. Jake didn't go often, hadn't since Sarah died. God and him had an understanding. Jake wouldn't ask for much, and God wouldn't ask him to forgive the unforgivable. But today he went, and he brought the girl. Preacher Daniels saw them enter, didn't falter, continued his sermon. "Book of Ruth," he said, "tells us, 'Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee, for whither thou goest, I will go.'" He looked at Jake, at the girl. Ruth was a foreigner, Moabite, despised by the Israelites. But Naomi took her in, not because it was easy, not because it was popular, but because it was right. The congregation shifted, some uncomfortable, some nodding. Scripture says, "I was a stranger and you welcomed me." Doesn't say, "I was a stranger and you checked my papers first." Doesn't say, "I was a stranger and you waited to see if it was convenient." Preacher's voice rose, not shouting, just filling the space. It says, "You welcomed me, period. No conditions, no qualifications, just human decency." He paused. Let it sit. Now, I know there's talk about Jake Tanner and the girl he's sheltering, about legality and property and claims. And I'll tell you what I told the circuit judge when he came through last week. Jake's head snapped up. The judge had come through. I told him, if this is legal, then the law needs changing. And if it ain't legal, then someone better prove it in the light of day, with witnesses, with truth. Preacher set down his Bible. Service dismissed, and may we all have the courage to be strangers' keepers. Silence. Then Ben Cartwright stood, walked down the aisle, shook Jake's hand, then Mrs. Patterson, then Samuel, then 5 others. Not everyone, maybe a third of the congregation, but a third was more than Jake had expected. The girl watched, wide-eyed. She'd never seen this before. People standing for her, publicly. Jake squeezed her shoulder gently. "See?" he murmured. "You're not alone anymore." She wasn't sure she believed it, but she wanted to. Morgan pulled Jake aside after church. "Need to show you something," he said, low voice. They walked to the sheriff's office. Morgan pulled out a file. Inside, 2 documents, both labeled Apache transfer. "Top one's Riker's," Morgan said. "Bottom one's the real document from Fort Bowie." Jake compared them. Different names, different dates, different signatures. "Riker's is forged," Jake said. "I know." "Then why?" "Because proving it means accusing a federal contractor of fraud, which means federal investigation, which means I'm stuck in the middle of a war between Riker and Washington, and men like me don't survive wars like that." Jake set down the papers. So what are you saying? Morgan looked out the window, at the church, at the people filing out. I'm saying when the time comes, when Riker makes his move, I'll bring this file. And I'll testify. You'll lose your job. Probably. Maybe your life. Probably that too. Then why? Morgan turned, met Jake's eyes. Because I got a daughter, 8 years old, and I want her to grow up thinking her daddy was brave, not convenient. Jake extended his hand. You're a good man, Morgan. No, Morgan said, shaking it. I'm a coward trying to be better. There's a difference. Not much of one. Morgan almost smiled. Hope you're right. That night, back at the cabin, they cooked together. Cornbread from Mrs. Patterson's coin, beans from Samuel's credit, coffee from Ben's trade, built from community, from people choosing decency. The girl set 2 plates, 2 cups, 2 chairs pulled close to the fire, equal. Jake looked at the table, at her. You know what this is? He asked. She tilted her head. Question. This is family. Might not look like other families, might not be blood, but it's family just the same. She considered that, then spoke, rare, careful English. Family stay? Yeah, Jake said. Family stays. She nodded. Satisfied. They ate in comfortable silence. The fire crackled. Outside, the wind carried the first hint of spring. Winter was ending, and with it, maybe, the worst of the cold. Jake thought about the allies they'd gathered, the shifts in town. The deputy's confession. It wasn't enough. Not yet. Riker still had power, still had papers, fake though they were, still had guns. But they had something too. They had truth. They had witnesses. They had a preacher willing to speak and a deputy willing to testify. And they had each other. Sometimes that was enough. Sometimes it had to be. Tomorrow, Jake said, we draw up formal papers. Guardianship, employment contract, whatever makes you a person under law, not property. She nodded. Together. Together, he agreed. Outside in the darkness, horses moved. Watchers. Always watchers. But inside, the fire burned warm. And 2 people sat at a table, no longer alone. That was worth fighting for. That was worth everything. Tuesday morning, clear and cold, Jake was splitting wood when he saw the rider. Single man. Coming fast, Ben Cartwright, the blacksmith. Jake set down the axe. Something was wrong. Ben pulled up hard. They're coming. Today. Riker's got federal authorization, or says he does. 6 men, maybe more, coming at noon. How do you know? Heard it at the livery. Hollins was bragging about it. Said he showed Riker the back trail, the one that skirts your property line. Jake went cold. Hollins? His neighbor. The man he'd helped last winter when Hollins' roof collapsed. The man he'd trusted. I'm sorry, Jake, Ben said. Thought you should know. How long? Hour, maybe less. Ben handed down a revolver. Extra iron. You're going to need it. Jake took it. Thanks. Ben rode off. Fast. Inside, the girl was packing. She'd heard. No, Jake said. You're not running. They come for me. Let them come. We're ready. But they weren't. Not really. You're never ready to lose everything. They didn't come at noon. They came at dawn. Wednesday. While Jake was checking the well, while the girl was inside making coffee, 6 riders, Riker in front, Hollins trailing behind, eyes down. Couldn't even look at Jake. 2 men with rifles dismounted, positioned themselves at the cabin corners. Tanner. Riker stayed horsed. Step aside. No. Riker pulled out a document, unfolded it. Federal Marshal's order. Transfer of custody. I'm taking the girl. Let me see it. You don't need to see it. You need to comply. I need to see it, Jake repeated, stepped forward. One of the riflemen moved, fast, rifle butt to Jake's gut. He went down, hard, couldn't breathe. The girl screamed, ran out of the cabin. No, Jake tried to say, but he had no air. Riker's men grabbed her. She fought, kicked, bit, drew blood from one man's hand. He hit her. Open palm across the face. Jake roared, tried to rise. The other rifleman kicked him in the ribs. Something cracked. Rib. Maybe two. "You're under arrest for obstruction," Riker said. Calm, like this was nothing. "Federal offense. You'll hang for it." "Then I'll hang legal," Jake gasped. Riker nodded to his men. "Restrain him." They hauled Jake up, slammed him against the cabin wall. One man held him while the other beat him. Methodical. Ribs, gut, face. The girl was screaming, in Apache, in broken English, in sounds that had no language. Jake tasted blood, saw stars, felt his consciousness sliding. Last thing he saw, them binding her hands, loading her onto a wagon, her eyes locked on his. "Don't die. Find me." Then darkness. Jake woke on the ground. Sun was high. Noon maybe. He tried to move. Pain exploded through his chest. Definitely broken ribs. He rolled to his side, vomited blood. Not good. Probably internal bleeding. Probably dying. Probably didn't matter. He crawled to the cabin. Every inch agony. Inside, wrecked. Table overturned. Stove kicked over. Papers torn. His guardianship claim, shredded. And on the floor, her pouch. The one with the silver beads. They'd taken her, but left her wealth. Because wealth didn't matter without freedom. Jake picked up the pouch. Inside, the wooden horse she'd carved for him. They'd left that too, or she had. A message. "I'm still me. Still yours." He closed his fist around it. Then he wept. First time since his wife died. First time he'd let himself feel the full weight of loss. He'd failed her. Just like he'd failed Emma, failed Sarah. He was a man who couldn't protect anyone. What good was he? He lay there on the cold floor, bleeding, broken, holding a wooden horse carved by a girl whose name he didn't even know. And for a long time, he wanted to stay there, wanted to let the bleeding take him, let the failure be final. Outside, hoofbeats. Someone coming. He didn't care. Let them finish it. The door opened. Ben Cartwright, Samuel, Preacher Daniels. "Jesus Christ," Ben said, knelt beside Jake. "How bad?" "Bad enough." Samuel was already pulling bandages from his satchel. "Ribs?" "Yeah." "Can you breathe?" "Some?" "Then you'll live, whether you want to or not." They lifted him, carefully, set him on the overturned bench they'd righted. Preacher handed him water. "Drink slow." Jake drank. It hurt. Everything hurt. "They took her," he said, voice thick. "We know," Ben said. "Whole town knows. Riker's bragging about it." "Where?" "His ranch, 10 miles north. He's got her locked in the bunkhouse. Guards posted." Jake tried to stand, fell. "Easy," Samuel said. "You're not riding anywhere today." "Have to. You have to heal," Preacher interrupted. "You're no good to her dead. I'm no good to her alive neither. Couldn't stop them." 6 armed men against 1, Ben said. "That's not failure. That's mathematics." Jake shook his head. Regretted it. "Should have been ready. Should have had help," Preacher said. "And now you do." Jake looked up. At the 3 men standing in his wrecked cabin. "Morgan's gathering evidence," Preacher continued. "Real federal documents. Proof Riker's order is forged. He's sending telegrams to Fort Bowie, to the territorial marshal, to the federal judge." "That'll take days," Jake said. 2 days, Samuel said. 3 at most. We've got time." "She doesn't have time." "She's got more time than you think," Ben said. "Riker wants this legal. He's waiting for his forged papers to clear, waiting for the town to forget. He won't hurt her. Yet. Bad for his story." Jake wanted to believe that, but he'd seen her eyes. The fear. 13 times before, people had hunted her. This was the 14th. And she was alone again. "I have to get her back," he said. "We will," Preacher said. "But not with bullets, with truth, with witnesses, the way we planned." "Your plan failed. Our plan got interrupted. That's different." Samuel wrapped Jake's ribs. Tight. Professional. "You're going to rest today. Tomorrow you're going to hurt worse. That's how broken ribs work. Day after, you'll be able to ride. That's when we move." 2 days is what we've got, Ben said. So we used them. They stayed with him, fed him. cleaned the cabin, guarded him, because that's what allies did. Jake held the wooden horse, ran his thumb over the rough edges. I'm still me, still yours. He'd failed her once. He wouldn't fail her twice. If he had to die getting her back, so be it. But she wouldn't die alone. Never again. That night, Jake lay in the loft, the only place the pain was bearable. Ben slept by the door, Samuel by the stove, Preacher in a chair, Bible open on his lap. They wouldn't leave him. Didn't trust him not to do something stupid. They were right not to. Jake stared at the wooden horse. Such a small thing, carved from scrap wood with a dull knife, barely recognizable as a horse, but she'd made it for him. After 13 times of running. After being hunted, captured, sold, beaten, she'd still had enough humanity left to make something beautiful. If she could survive that and still be kind, what right did he have to quit? He thought about his daughter, Emma, 4 years old when the fever took her. She'd loved horses, used to make him carry her on his shoulders, galloping around the yard. Faster, Daddy, faster, she'd laugh. He'd failed to save her. Failed to save Sarah. Failed to save anyone who'd ever depended on him. But maybe failure wasn't final. Maybe redemption was just trying again, even when every bone in your body said to quit. He closed his fist around the wooden horse. I'm coming, he thought. 2 days. I'm coming. Outside, the wind picked up. Storm moving in. Inside, 3 men stood guard over a broken fourth. This is what grace looked like, Jake realized. Not angels, not miracles. Just people who showed up when you needed them most. He'd show up for her. He'd gather every witness, every ally, every piece of truth he could find, and he'd bring her home, or die trying. Either way, she'd know. Someone had stood for her. Someone had chosen her over safety. That had to count for something. It had to. Morning would come. The pain would worsen. The long work of healing would begin. But underneath it all, a harder thing was forming. Not hope, exactly. Hope was too soft a word. Purpose. Cold, iron purpose. The kind that didn't quit, didn't bend, didn't care about odds. Riker had made a mistake. He'd taken the girl, beaten Jake, wrecked the cabin. But he'd left Jake alive. That was the mistake. Because now Jake had nothing left to lose. And a man with nothing to lose was the most dangerous kind. He touched his broken ribs, felt the pain. Good. Pain meant alive. Alive meant fighting. And fighting meant she had a chance. 2 days. He'd be ready. Thursday. Dawn. Jake woke to agony. Samuel had been right. Second day was worse. Ribs screamed with every breath. Face swollen. Left eye barely opened. But he could move. Barely. Enough. Ben was already up, coffee boiling. How bad? Bad enough to be angry. Not bad enough to quit. Good. We've got work to do. Preacher Daniels arrived at sunup. Brought news. Morgan sent telegrams yesterday. Got responses overnight. He unfolded 3 papers. Fort Bowie confirms no Apache transfer to Riker. Ever. Territorial Marshal is sending an agent. Arrives tomorrow. Federal judge issued an injunction. No transfers without court hearing. Jake sat up. Winced. So we've got law on our side? We've got law arriving tomorrow. Today, we've got truth and witnesses. Tomorrow, we make Riker answer for both. Where? Town Square. Noon. Public hearing. Morgan's setting it up now. Jake stood. Took 3 tries. Then let's get her. Not yet, Samuel said. First, we get you upright. Then we get the town. By mid-morning, half the town knew. Preacher had rung the church bell. Old signal. Meant gather. Something important. 50 people came. More than Jake expected. He stood on the church steps. Hurt to stand. Hurt to breathe. Didn't matter. Most of you know me, he started, voice rough. Jake Tanner. Rancher. Veteran. Not much of a talker. A few smiles, nods. Most of you know about the Apache girl I sheltered. And most of you know Captain Riker took her, claimed federal authority. Murmurs. Some angry, some uncertain. Here's what you don't know. He held up Preacher's papers. Fort Bowie says Riker's lying. Territorial Marshal says his papers are forged. Federal judge says no transfer without a hearing. Louder murmurs now. Tomorrow at noon, federal agent arrives. Riker knows it, which means tonight's his last chance to make her disappear, to finish what he started. Silence, heavy. I'm asking for witnesses. People willing to stand in that square tomorrow and say they saw him take her. Beat me. Destroy legal documents. Anyone who saw any of it. Mrs. Patterson stepped forward. I saw you both in church, saw how gentle she was with my boy. Ben raised his hand. I saw her trade, honest work for honest pay. One by one, hands rose, and 10, 15, 20, not everyone, but enough. One more thing, Jake said. Tonight, I'm going to Riker's ranch. I'm going to ask, politely, for him to bring her to the hearing tomorrow. If he refuses, I'll know he's guilty, and so will you. That's suicide, someone called. Maybe, Jake said. But it's witnessed suicide, and that's evidence. Grim laughter. But understanding, too. Who's with me? Jake asked. Ben stepped up. I am. Samuel. And me. Morgan, Deputy Morgan, pushed through the crowd, badge in hand, set it on the steps. And me, he said. Jake looked at the badge, at Morgan. You sure? No, Morgan said. But I'm doing it anyway. 4 men, 4 witnesses, against Riker's ranch, his guards, his guns, long odds, but better than yesterday's odds of 0. They armed themselves at Ben's smithy. Ben handed Jake a shotgun. 12 gauge. You don't have to aim much. I can aim. Not with those ribs you can't. Fair point. Samuel brought bandages, whiskey, thread. For after. Optimistic, Jake said. Practical. Morgan brought something else. A folder. Riker's real record. Got it from the Federal Archives this morning. He spread papers on the workbench. Captain Silas Riker. Discharged from Army 1879. Dishonorable. Charges. Theft of government property, namely 43 Apache prisoners meant for relocation. Sold them to labor contractors instead. Jake's jaw tightened. So this is what he does? Takes people, sells them. Was, Morgan corrected. Federal warrant issued. Never served. He's got political protection. Governor's office. Territorial contracts. But if we can prove he forged these transfer papers, that protection evaporates. And the girl? Becomes a witness, not property, federal witness protection if needed. Jake looked at the papers, at the evidence, at the truth finally exposed. Why didn't you show me this before? Morgan met his eyes. Because I was scared. Because I thought maybe if I ignored it, it would go away. Because I was a coward. You're not anymore. I'm still scared. Good, Jake said. Means you're smart. Means you know what we're risking. Ben loaded shells. Samuel packed supplies. Morgan checked his rifle. 4 men preparing for a fight that could end them all. Preacher Daniels watched from the door. I can't go with you. Didn't ask you to, Jake said. But I can pray. Appreciate it. And I can make sure the town's ready tomorrow. Make sure the square's full. Make sure Riker can't hide in the dark anymore. Jake extended his hand. That's worth more than a gun. They shook. Bring her home, Jake, Preacher said. I will, or I'll die trying. I believe you. That's what worries me. They left at dusk, 10 miles north. Rough country. Red rock and scrub pine. Jake's ribs screamed with every step the horse took. He didn't care. Pain was just information. Information that he was alive. Still fighting. Ben rode beside him. Got a plan? Talk first. Shoot second. What if he shoots first? Then shoot back. Not much of a plan, but it was honest. They crested the ridge at full dark, looked down. Riker's ranch, main house, bunkhouse, barn, corrals, lit by torches, guards visible. 4, maybe 5. Where's the girl? Samuel whispered. Jake studied the layout. Bunkhouse. See the extra guard on that door? Morgan nodded. That's her. They dismounted, tied horses in a draw, approached on foot. Slow, quiet. Jake's ribs protested every crouch, every step. 50 yards out, a voice. That's far enough. They stopped. A guard stepped into torchlight, rifle aimed. Turn around, leave. Need to talk to Captain Riker, Jake called. Captain don't want to talk to you. Then tell him Jake Tanner's here, with a federal deputy and witnesses. Tell him we can do this easy or hard, his choice. The guard hesitated, then called toward the house. Boss, we got company. Riker appeared on the porch, backlit, couldn't see his face. But Jake heard the smile in his voice. Tanner. Thought I killed you. Takes more than a beating to kill a stubborn man. We can arrange more. You can try, but I brought witnesses this time. Anything happens to me, they testify. Federal agent arrives tomorrow. You'll hang. Silence. Calculating silence. Then, what do you want? The girl, at the town square hearing, noon tomorrow. Let her testify. Let the law decide. Law already decided. She's mine. Fort Bowie says different. Morgan stepped forward, badge still off, but authority in his voice. Got the wires right here. No transfer, no authorization. Your papers are forged, Riker, and forgery's a federal crime. More silence. You're bluffing, Riker said. Then call it, Jake said. Bring her tomorrow. Prove your claim. You got nothing to hide. Should be easy. And if I don't, then everyone knows you're guilty. And when that federal agent arrives, he'll come here with warrants and guns. Your choice. Walk into town a free man tomorrow, or get dragged out in irons next week. The guards shifted, nervous. Riker felt it too, the tide turning. Noon tomorrow, he said finally. Town square. I'll bring her. I'll prove my claim. And when I do, Tanner, I'm pressing charges. Obstruction, assault, theft. Looking forward to it, Jake said. They backed away, slow, watching. No shots fired, no blood spilled, just words, and the promise of a reckoning. They rode back under stars. That went better than expected, Ben said. He'll try something, Jake said. Tonight, before dawn, he'll try to move her. So we post guards, Morgan said, on every road into town. He moves her, we see it. And if he kills her instead? Samuel asked. Quiet, dreading the answer. Jake had thought about that. All day, all night. He won't, he said. Not yet. She's his leverage. Only card he's got left. He kills her. He's got nothing but a forgery charge. But if he brings her and she's been hurt, if she's got fresh bruises, fresh fear, that's evidence against him. So he'll keep her alive, Ben said. But scared. Yeah. They rode in silence. Back in town, Preacher had gathered more witnesses. 30 now, ready to fill the square. Mrs. Patterson had made cornbread. For after, she said, for when you bring her home. Old Ben's daughter had sewn a dress, simple, clean. So she has something that's hers. The town was choosing. Not everyone, but enough to matter. Jake stood in the square, looking at the platform where Morgan would conduct the hearing, where truth would finally speak louder than power. You think we'll win? Ben asked. Jake touched his ribs, felt the pain, felt the wooden horse in his pocket. I think we'll stand, he said, and that's all a man can do. That night, Jake didn't sleep. Couldn't. Too much pain, too much worry. He sat by the fire in his wrecked cabin, alone now, the others keeping watch on the roads. He pulled out the wooden horse, turned it in his hands. Such a small thing, but it held everything. Her kindness, her hope, her trust. He thought about the first day, how she'd fed his horse her last food, how that single act had changed everything. Kindness was like that, small sparks in the dark. You never knew which one would catch, which one would burn bright enough to light the way home. Tomorrow he'd stand in that square, broken ribs and swollen face. He'd face Riker and his guns and his forged papers, and he'd tell the truth. Simple truth. She was a person. She'd chosen to stay, and he'd chosen to protect her. Some choices defined a man. This was his. Outside, the first light of dawn touched the horizon. Friday, the day of reckoning. Jake stood, strapped on his gun, picked up his hat. The wooden horse went in his pocket. Over his heart, "I'm coming," he thought. "Hold on, I'm coming." The sun rose slow and red, storm coming. But maybe, just maybe, on the other side of the storm, there'd be clear sky. And a girl coming home, that was worth believing in. That was worth everything. He walked out into the dawn, toward the square, toward the fight, toward whatever came next. A man could only do what was in front of him. Everything else was just weather. And Jake Tanner had weathered worse. Town Square, Friday, 11:30. The platform stood empty, waiting. Jake arrived first, stood at the base, ribs taped tight, face still swollen, but upright. Ben beside him, Samuel, Morgan in his deputy coat, badge back on. He'd earned it back. The crowd came next. 50 people, then 70, then more. Filling the square, lining the boardwalks, pressing close. Mrs. Patterson with her son. Old Ben's daughter holding the dress she'd sewn. Shopkeepers, ranchers, farmers, even some who'd sneered before. Not everyone believed, but everyone wanted to see. Preacher Daniels stood on the platform, Bible in one hand, gavel in the other, borrowed from the circuit judge's office. "We're here as witnesses," he announced, "to hear truth, to see justice, to remember what we choose today." 11:45. 15 minutes. Jake's hand drifted to his pocket, to the wooden horse. Hold on. Almost there. Then, hoofbeats. Riker was coming. Riker rode in with 8 men, armed, uniformed, and in the wagon behind, her. Jake's breath caught. She was alive, sitting upright. His hands bound, but alive. Her eyes found his across the square, held. She wasn't broken, scared, yes, but not broken. That was enough. Riker dismounted, walked to the platform like he owned it. Maybe he thought he did. "Let's make this quick," he said. "I've got a federal transfer order. Girl's mine. End of story." "Beginning of story," Preacher corrected. "We'll hear evidence, then decide." "You're not a judge." "No, but I'm a witness. And so are they." He gestured to the crowd. Riker's jaw tightened. He pulled out his document. Transfer order, signed by Colonel Barnes, Fort Bowie, dated April 12, 1881. Apache female, age 16, transferred to my custody in payment for services rendered. Preacher took the paper, studied it. Morgan stepped forward. "I have the real transfer order, from Fort Bowie. Same date, same colonel." He unfolded his document. "It's for a different girl, different tribe, transferred to Fort Carson, not to Captain Riker. And it's signed different. The real colonel uses his full name, Jonathan Perry Barnes. This signature just says J. Barnes." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. "You calling me a forger?" Riker's hand drifted to his gun. "I'm saying the signatures don't match," Morgan said evenly. "I'm saying Fort Bowie confirms no transfer to you, ever. And I'm saying a federal agent is due here in 30 minutes to investigate." Riker went pale. Recovered fast. "That girl is property. Apache prisoner. She has no rights." "She has the right to speak," Preacher said. "Bring her forward." Guards hauled her from the wagon. Rough. She stumbled. Jake stepped forward. "Easy." One guard reached for his gun. Ben's hand moved faster, rifle half raised. "Don't." Standoff. Then Mrs. Patterson walked forward, calm, took the girl's arm gently, led her to the platform. The guards let her go, because shooting a grandmother in front of 70 witnesses would end them all. The girl stood on the platform, hands still bound. "Cut those ropes," Preacher said. "She'll run," Riker protested. "Then you've got nothing to hide. Cut them." Morgan cut the ropes himself. Her hands fell free. She rubbed her wrists, looked at Jake. He nodded. "Tell them." She turned to the crowd. The girl spoke, soft at first, then stronger. "My name," She paused, searched for English words. My name, Nalnish, means she who works hard. First time Jake had heard her name, first time anyone had asked. I am Apache, Chiricahua, daughter of dead chief. Father killed by soldiers, mother killed by sickness. I alone. The crowd went silent. 3 winters I run, hide, 13 times, men catch me, sell me, I run again. She looked at Riker. No fear now, just truth. This man catch me, say he has paper, say I am his, I am not his, I am not anyone's. Her English broke. She switched to Apache, fluid, angry. An old woman in the crowd, Apache, married to a rancher, translated. She says Riker took her from a raid, not a federal raid, his raid. He and his men attacked her camp, killed the men, took the women, sold them to labor bosses. She escaped. He tracked her for months. The crowd's mood shifted. Shock. Outrage. Riker interrupted. That's a lie. She's a prisoner of war. I was authorized. You were discharged, Morgan cut in. Dishonorably. For theft. For selling prisoners. I've got the records right here. He held up the federal file. Riker lunged, grabbed for the papers. Jake moved, despite the ribs, despite the pain, stepped between them. Don't, he said. Quiet. Final. Riker's hand was on his gun. Jake's wasn't. But 50 people were watching. 50 witnesses. Go ahead, Jake said. Shoot an unarmed man, in front of a preacher, in front of children. See where that gets you. Riker's hand trembled. Behind him, his guards shifted. Nervous. The math had changed. 1 man and his forged paper versus a town full of witnesses. Bad odds. This isn't over, Riker said. Yeah, Jake said. It is. Hoofbeats. Fast. Everyone turned. Federal agent. Badge gleaming. 3 marshals behind him. Captain Silas Riker, the agent called. Riker's face went white. You're under arrest for forgery of federal documents, kidnapping, and human trafficking. Men, disarm him. Riker went for his gun. Didn't make it. Morgan was faster. Rifle butt to Riker's wrist. Gun clattered to the dirt. The marshals moved in. Restrained him. His guards didn't fight. Smart. The agent looked at the girl, at Jake, at the crowd. Someone want to tell me what happened here? Justice, Preacher said simply. Justice happened. The marshals took Riker away, in irons. His guards surrendered without fight. The crowd exhaled. Collective relief. The girl, Nyalnish, stood on the platform, trembling. Not from fear now, from release. Jake walked to her, slow, ribs screaming. You're safe now, he said. She looked at him, at his swollen face, at the way he favored his left side. You come, she said, broken English, but clear. You come for me. Said I would. 13 times, no one come. You come. Yeah, his voice cracked. I came. She stepped forward, wrapped her arms around him, gentle, careful of his ribs. He held her. First time, first real embrace. And something in him, something that had been broken since Emma died, since Sarah followed, something cracked open, not healed, not fixed, but softer. The crowd watched. Some wiped eyes, some smiled. Mrs. Patterson brought cornbread. For after, like I promised. Old Ben's daughter brought the dress. So you have something that's yours. Nalnish took the dress, held it, looked at the women. Thank you, she said. Clear English. Practiced. You're welcome, Mrs. Patterson said. Then braver. You're welcome here, in this town. With us. Nalnish looked at Jake. Question, is it true? He nodded. It's true, you're home. She tested the word. Home. Home, he confirmed. Federal agent approached. Miss Nalnish, I'll need a statement for the charges against Riker, but take your time. I speak, she said. I tell truth. Good, he tipped his hat. You're a brave woman. I am survivor, she corrected. Brave is different, the agent smiled. Fair enough. Morgan stepped forward, badge still on. Jake, I owe you an apology. Should have stood sooner. You stood when it counted. Barely. Barely's enough. Jake extended his hand. You're a good lawman, Morgan. Town's lucky to have you. They shook. Ben clapped Jake's shoulder, carefully, avoiding the ribs. You did it, you stubborn fool. We did it, Jake corrected. All of us. Samuel nodded. That's the truth. The crowd began to disperse. Back to shops. Back to homes. Back to life. But something had changed. You could feel it. And the town had chosen. Not perfectly, not unanimously, but they'd chosen. And that mattered. Jake and Nalnish walked back to the cabin, slow. His ribs, her exhaustion, neither minded. The sun was warm. Spring had arrived. The mud season was ending. At the cabin, she stopped, looked at the broken window, the wrecked interior. I fix, she said. We'll fix it, Jake said. Together. She nodded. Together. They went inside. He built a fire. She made coffee, weak but warm. They sat at the table. 2 chairs, 2 cups. I have question, she said. Ask. Why you help me, first day? You not know me. Jake thought about that, about the real answer. You fed my horse, he said. When you had nothing, you gave something. That told me who you were, and I wanted to be the kind of man who helps people like that. She considered this. You are a good man. I'm a man who tries. That's all. She pulled something from her dress pocket. The wooden horse. They'd let her keep it. You keep this, she said, handing it to him. Remember, we stand. His words, from a week ago, a lifetime ago, he took the horse. We stand, he agreed. Outside, neighbors arrived, helping repair, bringing food, building community. Ben fixed the window. Samuel brought supplies. Mrs. Patterson taught Nalnish how to make proper cornbread, not just cattail survival bread. The town was rebuilding more than a cabin. It was rebuilding trust in itself, in justice, in the idea that one person could matter, that standing up could change things. At sunset, Jake and Nalnish stood on the porch, watching the land turn gold. What happens now? She asked. Now we live, Jake said. Plant a garden, fix the fence, make it through next winter. And winter after? We'll make it through that one too, she smiled. You teach me English? If you teach me Apache. Deal. They shook hands, formal, respectful. Then she did something unexpected. Took his hand, placed it over her heart, then placed her hand over his. Apache blessing. But also, family. We are bound. We choose this. Thank you, she said. For come, for stand, for choose me. Jake's eyes stung. Thank you for teaching me I could still choose right. They stood there as the sun set, as spring wind carried the smell of growing things. 2 people who'd been alone, who weren't alone anymore. Not family by blood, but family by choice. And that was stronger than any paper, any law, any claim. The door stood open behind them, firelight spilling out. Home. Hard won and hard kept. But home. And that was everything. 3 weeks later, the cabin looked different. Fixed window, mended door, new shingles where the old ones had rotted. Inside, 2 chairs by the fire, 2 cups on the table, 2 lives intersecting. Jake's ribs had healed. Mostly. Still hurt when storms came. But pain was just weather now. It passed. Nalnish moved through the cabin like she belonged. Because she did. She'd taken to English fast, still broken, still searching for words sometimes, but communicating. And she'd started teaching him Apache, basic words, greetings, gratitude, a language of survival becoming a language of home. Outside, the garden was planted. Corn, beans, squash. The 3 sisters, she called them. Plants that grew together, supported each other, like them. Spring had come. The mud season was over, and with it, the worst of the cold. Saturday morning. Knock at the door. Nalnish tensed. Old instinct. Jake touched her shoulder. It's okay. We're safe here. She nodded. believed him, mostly. He opened the door, Deputy Morgan, but not in uniform, just visiting. "Morning, Jake, Miss Nalnish." She'd told him her name 3 times before he pronounced it right. He was trying. "Morning, Deputy. Just Morgan today, off duty." He held up a basket. "Wife sent pie, apple. Thought you might like some. First social visit, not business, not obligation, just neighbor." "Come in," Jake said. "Coffee's on." They sat at the table, 3 cups now, the cabin adjusting. Morgan's daughter, 8 years old, shy, peeked from behind her father. Nalnish knelt, eye level, smiled. The girl stepped forward, held out something, a small doll, sewn from scraps. "For you," the girl whispered. "Papa said you didn't have toys when you were little, so I made one." Nalnish took it, carefully, like it was precious. "Thank you," she said, voice thick. "I keep, always." The girl beamed. Morgan watched his daughter and something in his face softened. This was why he'd stood, why he'd risked his badge, so his daughter could grow up seeing kindness, not cruelty. "Riker's trial is set," Morgan said quietly. "3 months. Federal judge. They'll need you both to testify." Jake nodded. "We'll be there." "Could be hard." "Reliving it. Living through it was harder," Nalnish said. Clear, strong. Morgan smiled. "Yes, ma'am, I expect it was." They ate pie, drank coffee, talked about weather, about planting, about normal things, because that's what they were now, normal, not a rescuer and rescued, not a protector and protected, just neighbors, living, helping each other through. When Morgan left, his daughter hugged Nalnish goodbye. The girl had no fear, just acceptance. Children learned fast what adults took years to figure out. People were just people. Everything else was just stories we told ourselves. Sunday, church. Jake and Nalnish walked in together, heads turned. Some always would, but more nodded than sneered, more smiled than looked away. Progress. They sat in the back pew, their place now. Preacher Daniels preached about Ruth again. Different angle this time. Ruth chose Naomi. Naomi chose Ruth. Neither was bound by law, only by love, by loyalty. By the simple act of saying, "I will not leave you." He looked at Jake and Nalnish. That's what family is. Not blood, not papers, just choosing, every day, to stand together. After service, Mrs. Patterson invited them to Sunday supper. "Just a small gathering," she said. "You, us, the Cartwrights, Samuel's family, nothing fancy." Nalnish looked at Jake, uncertain. "We'd be honored," Jake said. At the Pattersons' table, 10 people, passing plates, sharing stories, laughing. Nalnish spoke more than Jake had ever heard. About her father, her tribe, the old ways. People listened, really listened. Ben's daughter asked about beadwork. Could Nalnish teach her? "Yes," Nalnish said. "I teach. You teach me sewing?" Deal. Trade, partnership. The old way and the new way meeting. Samuel's son, 16, curious, asked about Apache tracking. "Could you show me the signs?" "I show," she said. "But first, you show me, reading, English words." "I want to learn." "I'll teach you," the boy said eagerly. Jake watched, amazed. She was building her own community, her own connections, not through him, through herself. She didn't need him to speak for her anymore. She had her own voice, and people were listening. Walking home that night under stars, Nalnish said, "I like this, Sunday supper, talking, learning." "Me too." "Your people, they are not so bad. Some are good." "Some are," Jake agreed. "The ones who try, anyway." "Like you." "Like us," he corrected. She smiled. "Yes, like us." Monday. Morgan stopped by. "Official business this time. Federal agent asked me to give you this." He handed Jake a document, legal guardianship, approved by territorial court. Jake Tanner, guardian of Nalnish, Apache woman, age estimated 16 to 18. "It's official," Morgan said. She's under your protection. Legally, no one can claim her. No one can take her. Jake read it. Read it again. Couldn't quite believe it. What if she wants to leave? Go back to her people. Then she leaves. This gives her protection, not prison. She's free to choose. Jake handed the paper to Nalnish. This says you're safe. No one can claim you. You're free. She read it slowly, sounding out words. Free? She repeated, testing the word. What means free? Means you choose. You want to stay? You stay. You want to go? You go. You want to find your tribe? I'll help you find them. Your choice. She looked at him for a long moment. I choose here, she said. I choose family. Jake's throat tightened. You sure? 13 times I run, always looking for safe, for home. I find it here, with you, with town. I choose this. Morgan cleared his throat. There's one more thing. Federal government is offering reparations to Apache survivors, victims of illegal raids. She qualifies. Not much, maybe $200, but it's hers. $200. More money than she'd ever seen. What I do with this? She asked. Whatever you want, Jake said. It's yours. She thought, I buy my horse, and seeds for garden, and books for learning English. Practical, forward-thinking, planning a life, not just surviving. Good choices, Morgan said. After he left, Nilnish folded the guardianship paper, placed it in a tin box with Jake's daughter's blanket and his wife's ring. Family treasures. She was family now, official and otherwise. You don't have to keep that with our things, Jake said gently. It's yours. Our things, she corrected. Family things. I keep here, with family. And that was that. Spring deepened into early summer. The garden grew. Corn knee-high, beans climbing, squash spreading. The three sisters thriving. Jake and Nalnish worked side by side, weeding, watering, building fences to keep deer out. She sang sometimes, Apache songs, low and rhythmic. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the feeling. Home songs, work songs, songs of belonging. One evening, sitting on the porch after work, she said, I have question. Ask. You have wife, daughter. Before, you loved them. I did. Still do. You miss them. Every day. She nodded. Quiet for a moment. Then, I have mother, father, brother, all dead. I miss them. Every day. I know. But, she continued, searching for words, missing them does not mean I cannot have new family. Yes? Yes, Jake said softly. You can miss them and still have new family. Both can be true. Good, she said, because you are family now. Not replace old family, but new family, different family. Choose family. Jake had to look away, eyes stinging. Yeah, he managed. Chosen family. They sat in comfortable silence, the kind only family could share. After a while, she said, I want to learn reading. Real reading. Not just words. I want to read books. Learn history. Learn everything. I'll help. We'll get books from the circuit teacher. Maybe Samuel has some in his store. And I teach you tracking, Apache way, survival skills, how to read land. Deal. They shook hands. Then she laughed. What? He asked. We always shake hands? Like business? Maybe? She hesitated. Maybe we hug? Like family? He opened his arms. She stepped in. They held each other, not romantic, not awkward, just family. The way a father holds a daughter, the way a daughter holds a father. Chosen, earned, real. When they pulled back, both had tears. We are okay now? She asked. Safe now? We're okay, Jake said. We're safe, and we're home. Home, she repeated, smiled. I like this word. Me too. Saturday. Market day. 8 weeks since the hearing. Jake and Nelnish rode into town together. She sat her own horse now, a steady mare, bought with her reparations money. Independent, but together. They stopped at Samuel's store. She had beadwork to sell. He had pelts to trade. Business, partnership. Inside, the store was busy. People shopping, talking, living. Mrs. Patterson's grandson saw Nalnish, ran over. "Miss Nalnish, look!" He held up a carved bird. "Papa taught me, like you taught him to carve horses." Skills passing, generation to generation. She examined it. "Very good. You have talent." The boy beamed. Samuel rang up their trades. Extended credit for flour without being asked. "Don't need credit," Jake said. "We can pay." "I know. But neighbors help neighbors. You taught us that." Outside, they loaded supplies. A stranger rode up. Travel-worn. Tired. Apache. He stared at Nelnish, said something in their language. Fast. Urgent. She responded. A conversation Jake couldn't follow. The man pointed north. Asked a question. She answered. Pointed to Jake. Explained something. The man looked at Jake. Assessed him. Nodded slowly. Then spoke to Nalnish again. She listened. Tears in her eyes, but smiling. "What?" Jake asked when the man rode on. "He is cousin. My mother's brother's son. He thought I was dead. Whole tribe thought I was dead." "What did he say?" "He says tribe is north. 3 days ride. Reservation. Not good place, but safe. Legal. He says I should come. I am welcome." Jake's stomach dropped, but he kept his face neutral. "Do you want to go?" She looked north, toward her people, her blood, then looked at the town, at the store, at the garden waiting at home. "I want to visit," she said carefully. "See cousins, see tribe. Tell them I am alive. I am okay." "Of course. But," she met his eyes, "I come back. This is home now. Here, with you, with town. I visit tribe, but I live here." Relief flooded him. But more than that, pride. She'd chosen. Not because she had to, because she wanted to. "We'll go together," he said. "If you want. Meet your people. Stay a while, then come home." "Together?" "Together." She smiled. Full, bright, free. "Okay, we go. We come back. Together." They rode home in comfortable silence. At the cabin, she dismounted, looked at the garden, the fixed window, the smoke rising from the chimney. "Jake?" "Yeah? Thank you. For that first day. For coffee. For choosing me." He thought back. To the girl feeding his horse. To the riders mocking. To the choice he'd made. Such a small choice. Help or don't help. Simple. But it had changed everything. "Thank you," he said, "for teaching me I could still be the man I wanted to be." She nodded. Understanding. They walked inside. She stoked the fire. He put the coffee on. 2 cups, 2 chairs, 2 people. Not alone anymore. The door stood open, spring wind carrying the smell of growing things. Outside, a garden, a town, a life. Inside, warmth, safety, home. Jake looked at Nalnish, at the girl who'd fed his horse, who'd trusted him, who'd survived 13 hunts and finally found sanctuary. She was reading now, sounding out words from a primer Samuel had given her, lips moving, focused, learning, building a life. One word at a time, and he realized this was grace, not angels, not miracles, just people choosing each other, day after day, meal after meal, standing together when the world said run. That was enough. That was everything. The fire crackled. The coffee boiled. The wind sang through the open door. And 2 people who'd been lost found themselves home. Not because they'd found each other, but because they'd chosen each other every day and would keep choosing for as long as the wind blew, for as long as the fire burned. for as long as home meant standing together. That was the story. Simple, true, earned, and worth remembering.